medication did not work for me. Modern medication did not work for me. Modern medication did not work for me. Modern medication.
Hello, greetings. Welcome to Mercy TV, your source for news and information on the medical cannabis issue as it unfolds here in Oregon, across America, and around the world. Greetings. My name is Perry. Along with PK, we'll be hosting this segment of Mercy TV. We have a couple of guests with us tonight. We have Barry Height with the Doctors Knox group, and Pioneer Pete Gendron, activist, both activists, I guess we should say, with us here tonight to talk about issues that are going on. First off, let's touch about this here, the Doctors Knox group. I guess you guys have an event happening here soon.
Yeah, it's coming up right around the corner. It'll be Tuesday the 19th from 6 to 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. It may go a little bit longer, but at the Broadway Commons, and it's all about health, wellness, and a conversation about the importance of CBD.
Good.
New store in town, and so the good news is we've got access to this incredible oil.
Awesome.
CBD extracted from hemp, so there's a beautiful conversation as to how we can evolve this bigger conversation as to the benefits of the overall cannabis flower.
Excellent, exciting, and good to see an educational opportunity like that happening here in the Salem area. I know folks, particularly all around through the valley here, talk about it, particularly the prospect of being able to make it from hemp crops.
Well, it's a medicine. It's medicine for the people, and it's about time we all basically focus on the fastest way we can get this CBD, medicine for the people, to begin to impact all of these various problems. Perhaps could be epilepsy, it could be pain management, it could be a lot of different issues that the biology of the human being is impacted by with this cannabis CBD.
Excuse
medicine.
me, Barry.
Yeah.
But we want to say hello to the people in the hospital. We need you to talk to your children and to your doctors about cannabis. You don't have to smoke it. You can use a healing oil that I make up, and then there's the other with the CBD. Our buddy over here, Reed, he makes the one with the roots of the cannabis plant.
Yes, and
Parents for Pot, too.
I definitely want to make sure
They're helping
about
out 50 families nationwide or in the state.
Yeah, there's a lot of help that's needed in a lot of different places. There's an opiate epidemic going on.
Yes.
And yet nobody's talking about the benefit that this plant can help with that big problem. We know that the Americans for Safe Access has a new campaign, right, called
cool.
End Pain, Not Lives.org.
And that's what we're seeing here on this document here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
hopefully we can get that this website up, endpainnotlives.org.
well,
Check our website. We'll have it up there later on. So.
states with medical cannabis laws have shown that 25% reduction in overdose deaths have been determined, and there's other statistics where medical cannabis is a tool that can be used to combat pain and reduce deaths. So End Pain Not Lives.
Yes.
.org.
So
Excellent.
We talk about this from the political end of the spectrum, which is what I've been doing for the last few years. It's really important to recognize that Oregon has actually done a lot to make CBD accessible to patients and the public as a whole through our system in the last couple of years. For example, in 2016, we passed House Bill 4060 with the Industrial Hemp Farmers Association that was the first step in reforming the agricultural program in Oregon to allow what we use as flower oil production for CBD to be introduced into the adult use stream. In 2017, we passed Senate Bill 2015, 1015, which was the final piece in allowing the OLCC to recognize the CBD that's been produced under industrial hemp agricultural licenses to be brought into our labs, tested to the same standards as medical production for all other cannabis, and then released for public consumption, whether you're a patient or an adult use consumer. It was important to us to make sure that these hemp products were tested for their CBD flower oil, the most valuable portion of the plant, to the same standards of regulatory public health and safety that we've applied to other crops in the cannabis family. And that was one of the things that was a key in this process, was the state recognizing that both hemp and what is conventionally called marijuana all fall under the family Cannabaceae. They're all very closely related. So they get to have, at least in Oregon, the same standards applied to them when it comes to releasing a product to the public that apply to public health and safety for every single consumer, for every end user.
Which is, you know, very good, needless to say. However, I think it's very important that we promote or you know, inform, educate people that these results that we're getting here, this CBD rich cannabis, is safer than even regular medical cannabis, because at least in the minds of those who fear the plant, if you will, because the end result of the process is that it's low in THC.
Very low.
See? Now, even THC itself, though, even the worst case scenario of the most potent THC, you're still not going to have the medical liability or risk factors with any other medication to which it's comparable. When we talk about the opioid epidemic, you know, the problem, and medical cannabis's relation to it, especially, it is in no case that has been heard of, reported, or anything, been contraindicated. It does not have a negative effect with it. It doesn't cause an increase in opioid use. And in fact, the only thing we've heard of is a reduced opioid. It's a good, viable companion medication with opioids.
Absolutely.
So, and most important of all, it's benign. There is no lethal dose of cannabis. You cannot suffer the consequences of it like you can with the opioids, you know. So and I think that needs to be shouted from the mountaintops. You know, this whole reefer madness thing is it kills and it has no medical value, both false, and so that just has to be, you know,
Pardon me.
put foremost, I think.
So the federal government's been lying to us since 1937, when they first did this act on marijuana cannabis plants. They affected several different industries in the hemp and in the medical and the research, that it was stifled.
Right.
We're lucky that we got the program, but they changed it all. They're violating Section 20 of the Oregon Constitution, saying that all people should be treated equally. We're not treated equally. Since the program came, we were a cash cow, and they took out our bank account without asking the patients, can we use this money?
Yeah, there's a lot of problems right now, really. And would you guys agree that we should stop using the word marijuana and just start calling it what it is, cannabis? Cannabis is what it is, and hemp is a conversation of the cannabis plant, right?
The only time I find myself, unfortunately, having to use the term marijuana is really in relationship to discussing the industrial hemp program, which is run by the Department of Agriculture,
Right.
versus medical and adult use programs run by OHA and OLCC. At that point, because they're all part of the cannabis family, they're all cannabaceae, using the common parlance in the culture, I have to revert to marijuana and hemp to revert to those two definitions when we're talking about THC content versus CBD content and where we're deriving the benefit. Although I don't like the term marijuana culturally speaking, when you get down to the level of distinguishing between the three major state programs in Oregon, that's the word that we wind up using because it's culturally common, it's a touchstone.
And that's one of the challenges, is to change that automatic response to describe this miracle plant. And I think you were getting to this interesting idea of why cannabis isn't being discussed within this greater conversation of this opiate epidemic, right?
Right.
Right?
That should be out there,
It's
you know.
one
It
of the-
really should be, because in areas where cannabis has been accepted culturally for both medicinal and adult use, what some people call recreational use, I insist on calling adult use.
Adult use seems more proper. Yeah.
Where cannabis has been accepted for medical and for adult use, opioid abuse is down by 25% at minimum in multiple state studies. This is very significant.
Which means no health.
Right, and along the line,
Deterioration.
all pharmaceuticals, alcohol, you know, all the way down the line on that too. So, yeah.
And a lot has to be said to the body's inner intelligence, doesn't it? Where the plant chemistry of the cannabis plant, our body understands.
Well, it's dealing with those same things: the pain, the anxieties, all of it, and more. You know, that's just what we know now. What we, the people, have found out and spread throughout our, you know, ourselves. So.
Absolutely. And this is something that we have to work on continually, and with your help as the audience out here on this program tonight, I will say personally for myself, working with a patient recently here in Salem in Marion County, we were able to introduce a new cannabinoid therapy program into a treatment facility that had not previously recognized cannabinoid therapy.
Congratulations.
The patient first had to use smokeless remedies that were CBD based. In order to open the door to the further conversation, we demonstrated that the CBDs were non-psychoactive, that they affect your CB2 receptors, that the way they affect you on a systematic basis means they don't have to be administered as regularly as smoking by, well, burning
Standard.
oral consumption.
Right.
And then after that, they were willing to also entertain the idea of THC-based therapies that were also orally ingested. We're talking about taking a serving, which is about the size of a grain of rice, 2 or 3 times a day. This is something where these facilities had previously only been used to administering pharmaceutical drugs, and in this case, this facility agreed to first accept CBD orally administered, and then agree to accept a combination of CBD and THC orally administered to provide for the pain relief needs of the patient. And in fact, that patient, and this is something that that person would give in testimony, was relieved of the dependence on 19 different drugs, both over-the-counter and
Pharmaceutical
prescription
drugs,
drugs,
Yeah.
was relieved of the need to take 19 separate drugs by self-administered THC and CBD combination therapy in the form of about 3 grains of rice per day worth of oil. That was really incredible because state-funded agencies normally aren't that willing to take on a
Right,
case
yeah.
like this because it's controversial, but
Federal-
when they understood what the monetary value was of taking somebody off of 19 different over-the-counter and prescription drugs
Right.
and allowing them to use this experimental therapy versus the actual cost to the state and federal
Oh, yeah,
governments of maintaining the prescription regimen,
Yeah.
they agreed to accept it. It's currently on an experimental basis, but this kind of thing cannot happen without the patients insisting on having their rights.
So
Yeah.
it's,
Right,
so it's
right.
education, which-
Absolutely,
which is
very-
going on this Tuesday, the
Okay.
integrated cannabinoid medicine conversation.
Pete, is there a website that folks can go to find out more about this program of yours?
There are a couple of different websites. The new program that we're starting is not ready to go live yet. When people are looking for quick information on CBDs, I encourage them to go to a site called beyondthc.com.
Good.
It's where O'Shaughnessy's Journal of Clinical Medicine is.
Okay.
Some of the material on there is admittedly pretty heady, but they really focus on the other, what we call the novel cannabinoids, not THC and CBD
Well, O'Shaughnessy
alone,
was a
but-
doctor and a scientist, so he's speaking to that, level there. So
And a
anybody
genius,
who's medically
100
inclined or interested should definitely check out O'Shaughnessy's. Yeah.
130 years ago, this guy was a clinical genius. I mean, the geek in me loves him.
Man, the guy was-
Let's talk about the process of this patient who absolutely demanded, right? Or how did that unfold? Where
Yeah, it was-
where the
right,
scenario evolved to where the cannabis was chosen for the patient, and now it's beginning to develop this
The patient chose the cannabis.
Right.
And then it was a matter of the patient persuading the facility that under the state laws, the relationship that we had as a patient and a grower, caregiver for the patient, the way the patient is respected in their rights to choose their medication by the state of Oregon, and the fact that the facility was licensed by the state of Oregon, these were all very crucial pieces in convincing the facility to allow the patient to use a state-recognized, doctor-recommended form of preferred therapy. These are what's called in the industry a PRM. It's a patient required medicine or a patient requested medicine. It's something that doesn't have a specific daily level of dosage. There's
call in.
there's not an LDL.
Excellent.
Excellent, yeah.
All right, well, go ahead, caller.
Yes, I just had a question. I'm trying to find out about the Oregon Cannabis Commission.
Oh, the new Cannabis Commission.
Yes.
Ain't you on that board?
I am not on the Oregon Cannabis Commission board, but they did have their first question or their first meeting this week. What's the question, caller?
Well, I was trying to find out about more information about them and how they're working with the OMMP and the Oregon Health Authority to help medical patients.
So we have, I will say, and quite happily, because I've worked with these people over the last couple of years here, we have a couple of very strong medical advocates on the OCC. Anthony Taylor of Compassionate Oregon is one of them. And I'm very happy to have worked with him on passing legislation successfully in the last couple of sessions that really is designed to maintain patients' rights in this ever-changing regulatory system. The first meeting minutes from the OCC are actually available online at oregon.gov, the OLIS, Oregon Legislative Information Service website. So you can actually see the meeting minutes and see what they were discussing there. We've got a couple of good advocates for medical cannabis on that panel. They've just started to draft their first report because they only met this week. So their first report is going to be into the legislature in a few days here. And the legislators' response to that, we will see at the beginning of February when the 2018 short session starts.
That's
Great.
I don't, Are those meetings open to the public?
They are. Those meetings, the first one at least, was held up in Portland, and the next one will be announced again through the state website a few weeks before it happens, and I don't think it's going to be until after the February legislative session. I don't have the date, unfortunately.
They didn't get in touch with me to film it.
And I can find out information on that on the OLIS website about them and what they're doing, and if there's any other members that are friendly for medical cannabis.
That is absolutely the place to go, and the maintenance of that system, and I have to say this, regardless of party affiliations or how happy or unhappy anybody is with the state and the way they're running things, the Oregon Legislative Information System, that set of websites, is pretty user-friendly, and when you type in your intent, like, I want to know what's happening with the Oregon Cannabis Commission, it comes up. And it's easily clickable and easily readable, and I have to give them props and kudos for spending our taxpayers' dollars in that capacity to facilitate our access to that information. Everybody should take advantage of it because, frankly, we already paid for it.
Good deal.
Yes, and I also wanted to ask about, speaking of taxes, is there a place I can find where the taxes went or are going, or how they're going to be allocated from the medical program?
Yeah, there's a good report on it at the Oregon Cannabis Connection. So OCCnewspaper.com, or you can find that link off our homepage at mercycenters.org.
Okay, that is so great. Thank you so much.
I don't know, it might be off OLIS. They have a lot of stuff there, like you're saying.
It's going to be a little bit harder to
you,
find that through the
caller.
state site, but yeah, I would definitely go to the OCC newspaper site. OCCnewspaper.com is a great place to get current, up-to-date information. I know Keith updates that 6 or 8 times in between each of his bi-monthly publications, and I have to throw out the shameless plug for OCCnewspaper.com because the new issue is coming out, I think, today. So it's time to grab the Christmas edition.
Good.
Yeah. And Anthony Taylor does articles for Keith at
Monster.
You'll find Anthony Taylor from Compassionate Oregon's writings in the OCC newspaper on a
And
regular
even
basis,
yours.
and you'll even find my writings in there on a periodic basis. I think Keith has a couple of citations from me this month.
Excellent, Pete.
Good deal. So is there a way for folks to contact you about this program for help in getting introduced into their facility or for their loved one there? So.
The new concept, because the state of Oregon, and this primarily, sorry, I have to pick on the nice people at the Oregon Health Authority and the OMMP as much as they have or haven't done for us over the years.
Don't get me started.
This new program is designed to bridge the gap between the excess of production, which the OLCC says that we have, something like 1 million pounds of dry weight in the system right now. Think about what that looks like.
Well,
1 million
remember,
pounds.
90% of it's getting shipped out to children on the East Coast, though. So.
It's according to
I
the
kid, folks. That's
OLCC,
a BS
it's not.
report by the state police. So,
I think that report was
I joke. I
debunked.
kid. Unfortunately,
But,
the governor took that seriously. And
Beyond
that's why we have
that,
this law.
yeah, and they kind of hashed that out on May 30th with meeting
Not
with our
sufficiently.
federal
People
attorney.
should have been whipped through the streets, in my opinion, because it caused a lot of pain and suffering. You know, it set the.
But we
Oregon,
do have legitimately something like 1 million pounds in the adult use system in Oregon right now, and we also have what the state has acknowledged is possibly as many as 17,000 patients that have already not renewed their medical cards because of difficulties in obtaining a grower. And according to some numbers that I had to work up last month for the judiciary, the House and the Senate, in a short session report, we're looking at 12,232 additional patients that are about to be disenfranchised from their grower relationships.
How can we empower
And
them to know
this-
more about that program that started right now?
So this is a really big deal for me because 12,232 patients is what's going to be for the Oregon Health Plan typically about $10,000 per patient in additional fees for doctor's visits and for prescription costs that the
Wow,
state is
yeah.
going to be paying for.
Wow.
That's over $1.25 million.
You know, it's
Yeah,
almost
it's-
like when we
it's
were
not a
arresting
small
him and putting him in
impact,
prison,
but
for God's sake.
it's
It's
big,
not
big,
just
big.
the financial impact, it is also the practical impact on people's lives. You
Right.
have to understand what I said earlier. Cannabis being a patient-requested medicine, that grain of rice 3 times a day dosing, being
PRM.
something that the patient requests and that is what they require for their health and fitness, that's a decision that you're giving that individual to make for their own health. When
Right
you
to die.
take that decision away,
Well, quality of
and
life,
you
too,
require
so,
the
yeah.
patient to
We
only
want
take
to say something
something
before,
at the cost of the
And
state.
leadership for other patients
That
can
that
make that
becomes
decision.
a major issue beyond just the modality or the type of medication.
It's huge.
It's that you're removing a choice from a person that they have, quite frankly, as a God-given right to make for
Right,
themselves.
yeah,
giving them
yeah.
the power
The state
back,
has
yeah.
no business doing that. We've acknowledged
Medical
that
necessity,
in several areas of law, and we have
yeah.
to continue to defend that. So that's
Absolutely.
what this new project is designed to do, is provide the interface between what we estimate to be upwards of 25,000 patients that are being disenfranchised from their grower relationships this year, and the other end of the spectrum, which is 1 million pounds of cannabis in the state distribution system that is all dressed up with no place to go. And that's what we want to do with
Well-
this, is be the interface between this excess commodity and the people that are not getting taken care of appropriately by the state. And the details on that are going to be coming out in the coming weeks here, because we have to finish the rollout on this program essentially concurrent with the end of the legislative session in March of 2018.
Could be a good topic for the next show here, right?
Yeah, well, hopefully see you back in our next Friday.
Ray, please say something.
We have a very important date coming up, December 22nd, congressional vote on taxes and the Roshacker
The
Blumenauer
Hinchy-Rohrabacher Amendment, yes.
Yeah.
To continue
We need to contact our
to
congresspeople.
defund Department of Justice efforts at the federal level. Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Good one.
Yeah, in case anybody hasn't gotten the memo on this one, Earl Blumenauer is now the co-sponsor of this. This has been a contentious issue this year because Jeff Sessions has been opposed to it. We need to contact, among other people, DeFazio's office, Blumenauer's office, and express support for the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer amendment to make sure that we continue to get our medical protection.
Speak out, people. Speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Register, vote, talk to your neighbors, you people in the hospital.
We're
Get
stronger
better.
together.
Talk to your doctors.
It takes one sentence, one email. I support the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer amendment, and you should too.
We're in it together.
that's on. Okay, and remember the Health and Wellness Seminar, Tuesday, December 19th, 6 to 8 p.m., Broadway Commons, 1300 Broadway Street, Northeast, 100 Salem, Tuesday, December 19th.
Yep.
Okay.
Learn all about integrated
Right.
cannabinoid medicine.
Register, vote, and get everybody you know to do so also. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Peace.
Roots.
You want to say anything before I turn it off, Glenn?
Yes, good night.
Good night. God bless you all, every single one of you.